Good morning, guys. It is 52 degrees outside, and I am a bit of a weenie about the cold. So I've got my big jacket and my hat, and I'm going to show you guys around the morning garden. So coming up first is the tomato trellis, and right here you can see it's mostly a bean trellis these days. I've got new little baby beans coming on still, as well as a bunch of older pods of ones that have gone too far, and I am leaving for dried beans. I've gotten, I guess, like half a cup or so of dried beans off of this now. So that's pretty good, especially considering I didn't intend to do this at all. These are just the ones that either I didn't get to them in time or they were hidden. So I've been very much trying to pick everything I can fresh, and this is just what happens, and I'm gonna make the best of whatever bean harvest comes of this as well. Further on down the row, my cinnamon basil is still huge, but looking kind of sad, as all the basils are. Hoping to save some seeds from my basils this year. We'll see how that ends up going, but I would really like to be using home-saved seed as much as possible coming into next year. And then I've been taking out tomatoes little by little as I can, where they're not interfering with the beans right now, and kind of opening up this space for the fava beans, which I had planted some and a lot didn't come up, so I replanted this. And probably the next time it rains, they will start germinating. Every single day I come out here and I'm like, more beans? Really? I just picked some yesterday, and I'm seeing some today that are the right size for picking. Like, not even just a couple that I missed, like a lot. Look at these. So many beans. And these are just 3 plants. The variety is blue cocoa. These are pole beans, and they're now my favorite pole bean, I think. Mostly because they're purple, but also they're very productive. And yeah, they seem to produce really well even now that it's too cold for me outside. Down here is that onion that I let go to seed, didn't pull or anything. It definitely is coming back, and I assume it will try and go to seed again. I'm not really sure. I know onions are supposed to seed in their second year. This one got triggered to seed in its first year. So we'll see what happens with that. Right now it is kind of out of the way, not really bothering anything. And I usually like to let those plants do what they want. I've got quite a few green tomatoes, and if you guys have been watching, you know I'm planning on tearing these tomatoes out basically as soon as I have time. And I'm honestly not that worried about the green tomatoes. I think green salsa tastes just as good as red salsa, and I have plenty of green tomatoes to make a whole batch. Oh, and my mint plant here at the front is doing what I wanted. It is creeping between the cracks. It does take a fair bit of consistent cutting back of runners to keep it back on this side. But it is gonna invade this way, and that is exactly what I was hoping for by putting this here. Right here next to the mint is my now sad basil patch, with my absolutely thriving marigold despite the storm damage that it sustained. I think I missed the window on this basil. I don't think that this is going to make very tasty pesto anymore, and that's okay. It'll be really good compost and nutrition for next year's basil. Even the purple is starting to drop leaves, even though its leaves don't look as bad. And this cabbage is still here, by the way. I never took it out. It looks way happier with the current weather, but you can see it was super unhappy for a very long time, and I'm not entirely sure what it's going to do this year, but I'm looking forward to finding out. It does have that like slightly gone bad in the fridge kind of smell to it though. I think that might be a couple of the stems just being dead and starting to rot away while the rest of it is obviously growing, but it's not very nice. Right next to the cabbage here is where the corn was, where I took that out. And I was going to replant here as soon as possible, but I realized if I did that, I would be stepping on it to get to these peppers. So I have to take out all of these peppers here first before this area is really safe to plant. And I am at the point where I can do that again as soon as I have a day to do it. The red peppers that I was waiting on came off. They were delicious. And now I've got a few little green peppers left that, like I explained last week, are not worth leaving the plants in place to wait to ripen. Not just because of the head start that the brassicas need, but also because they likely won't ripen fully before the frost comes anyway. So it would be kind of double wasteful at that point. But I understand the temptation that you might have as a new gardener to leave it until the very last second, especially when you can see that it's still putting on new flowers, still trying to make fruit, still looking like a generally healthy plant. Because it's hard. It's hard to say, yeah, you're still like thriving, but your time is done and you need to make room for other plants in the garden. And you definitely don't have to follow my advice and take them out around this time. You're perfectly free to have your garden space be separate, like one for spring and one for fall, and have them be able to be planted at the same time without being in each other's way. And if I was maybe a little smarter about how I planted stuff, I could be planting things in between those peppers rather than needing to tear them all out to get stuff planted. But these are the things that you learn as you go through your years of gardening. A, how to do the things you want to do, and B, which things are important for you to do. Important in general, but also important to you personally and your own gardening practices. Check out this this ginger. It's super healthy. I have decided I am waiting right up until the frost to pull this. I pulled some the other day because I actually just needed ginger for a meal. And the ginger looked absolutely lovely. And I actually already replanted some of it so that I can get a little bit more of a head start on next year's crop. But overall, I think looking at what I have this ginger here. I have some hidden back behind some of these peppers and eggplants. I have some right here, and I have some over here. I think I'll have plenty of ginger for the winter, plus more to replant and have like several plants ready to go as soon as spring comes next year. I think as far as tearing things out, the eggplant is going to be the hardest for me because it looks the happiest out of everything. It's definitely still putting on new baby fruits, putting on new flowers, just generally looking like it would keep going. And so it's going to be really sad to pull this out. These little fruits, by the way, super edible. The only thing you lose by picking eggplant early is size. But anytime from when you can see that it's an actual eggplant to maturity, it's perfectly edible. The only plant in this area that I really feel the need to wait on is my Tabasco. You can see all of the unripe fruit all over it. And I would really like to get these fruits ripened so that they will make a good big batch of Tabasco sauce. If I don't get them all, which I won't, it's gonna be kind of impossible because the frost is gonna come. But not getting them all is not the end of the world. I just would really like to maximize this particular harvest because I don't have a really good use for a whole bunch of unripe Tabasco peppers the way I do for like jalapenos, for example. These plants over here, you can see kind of down where they're laying on the ground, there's a lot of green peppers down there. And because they're jalapeno type, they're super easy to find a way to use green, unripe. whereas I'm not entirely sure what having unripe Tabascos in my Tabasco sauce would do to it. Right, on the other side of the eggplants is the root vegetable area. I have covered with this bed skirt and an old sheet to kind of try and keep the cats from digging my second batch of carrots out. Right now all I see under here are weed sprouts, no carrots yet. Hopefully they do come up. I soaked the seeds for about 2 weeks beforehand, and I'm trying the cornstarch method to get these carrots to sprout. And if it doesn't work, I will continue trying, because that's one of the things that I want to model for you guys on this channel is taking your failures, not being embarrassed by them, and just embracing the lesson that comes with that. Although it is pretty funny that the one thing that I struggle to grow the most is sitting right here in the corner all the time. Yeah, but maybe that's fitting. Maybe that's more representative of me and my channel than I originally thought. Noodle beans are finally slowing down now that it's getting cold. They're definitely not stopping production completely. I can still at any time find a bean that is about the right ripeness to pick and eat fresh, which is crazy. But a lot more of them are in this stage where they are just about dried out. I've been saving a lot of dried beans from this because I just haven't had the energy to pull all of them fresh, and also all of those pole beans fresh. But these make quite a lot of dried beans per pod, so it feels also like a really good use of the plant to be collecting dried beans. I have maybe an entire cup and a half of dried beans off of this trellis so far, which is quite a lot. Somebody asked me, I don't know when or who, but they asked me what those beans taste like, and I'm not exactly a connoisseur of beans, but the dried beans seem good enough for chili for me, and that's really the best information that I can give you. And then the front trellis here has peas on it that are looking really great. This is sort of the perfect weather for them. And then on this side, below the peas, I have planted lettuce, which are hard to see because of the leaves. They're not super green lettuces. But these are immediately, I think this is on its second new leaf that it's making since it got transplanted, like, I don't know, 4 days ago. It is absolutely exploding now that it is in the ground. And something really funny, there's a spot here where one is missing. You can see kind of the leaves here. I have put 3 different green ones in this spot, and all of them, I check on them and the leaves seem to have been cut off at the base. It's kind of wild. I don't really know what's happening, but this spot doesn't want to have a lettuce here, apparently. Meanwhile, at the end, I stuck this green lettuce that I accidentally pulled almost all of the roots off of over here off to the side. I was like, maybe it'll grow, probably won't. And here it is, actually being alive after like 3 days. Whereas, you know, nothing can live here, even with a proper root ball. This last section here with the zinnias and the hot peppers, I think is going to be the trickiest section for me to deal with. All of these peppers are a little behind, so their first big flush is still ripening, and I would really like to maximize on that. This area is going to be the last area to get torn out, and I'm still not going to get all of these peppers to maturity before the frost. So this area, whatever I plant here, is probably going to have to go in after the frost, which is fine. There are plenty of things I can do like that. A big, really obvious one is garlic. Garlic does need to go in pretty late in the season, but the problem is I usually like to interplant it and give it space to have things in between it, so that when everything else comes out and the garlic has to be in until like June or July, I can plant stuff in between it and have it not really be getting in the way, which is what I did last year, and it worked out super well. So I'm going to do that again this year, but this row back here will at least have like a lot of garlic in it, even if it's not fully planted out like actual rows of garlic. And down here at the end, I do have some fresh brassicas already planted. You can see this is the first Brussels sprout that I put in, which is a good size. And these are some from the second round of sprouts that I had that are obviously much tinier. I think going forward, this timing, at least for Brussels sprouts, is a lot closer to the timing that I need than this. And those Brussels sprouts got planted super early. They were like August or so, maybe? No, I think it might have been July when I started those, which feels like way too early. You're in the middle of the peak of summer and nobody's really thinking about, oh, it's time to start stuff for fall, but apparently that is the new spot on my calendar where I need to start thinking about that. I'm just walking over here to show you what I do have in terms of sprouts. I'm trying to get broccolis and cauliflowers going, as well as rutabagas, multi-sown the way Charles Dowding does them. And those weren't looking great, so I did go to the store and get some that are this size. They're a pretty decent price for the size of the plant. And I can definitely admit when my seeds don't look like they're gonna do as well. And I don't think that buying plants from the store makes you any less of a gardener. It's just kind of like a really nice fail-safe to have when you do make mistakes like this. I am still gonna plant pretty much all of these. I'm not gonna give up on them. I'm gonna give them a chance, but I definitely wanted that insurance that some of my plants would be a good size and have a solid root system, and all of that stuff, so that my entire garden is not gonna just die over the winter. It would be really sad if I had the second year in a row where I had almost no large brassicas. Alright, a couple more things to check on. The raised bed, I gave my oregano a pretty substantial haircut, but you wouldn't be able to tell because it's such a floofy plant. But there's very obviously way more room for all this baby cilantro coming up, which I hope that's cilantro and not grass. Obviously these ones are cilantro, but these ones, I'm pretty sure they're cilantro, but there's also a lot of grass coming up in this bed. So it's hard to be sure. I've definitely let a lot of weed seeds grow a little longer than they should, just to make sure that they're not anything that I'm trying to grow, which at this point over in this area, I'm pretty sure none of them are what I'm trying to grow. So all I have is what's currently here, which is my thyme, my tarragon, and stevia, which has gone to seed. I don't need more seeds because this plant will come up from the roots every year now, but I probably will save seeds and give them away and have them also as backup. But it's nice to have something on the list that is, I can do this if I have time, but I don't have to do it. Berry patch is looking all right. Blueberries haven't changed. Trying to keep them watered ever since my sprinkler died has been a struggle, because getting the hose untangled from the current garden is an entire half an hour of work that I'm not willing to do. So over here they've been getting watered via the watering can, and I just keep hoping that it'll rain, because we've gone quite a while without a good solid rain. Even with the hurricane coming through, we only got a little bit of rain here. But the raspberries need water the most right now because they are fruiting. I didn't realize until recently that this variety would give me fall fruit, and I am super excited about that. Been checking on them every single day to see their progress. Alrighty, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you for coming along with me on this admittedly a little sleepy morning garden tour. I don't even think Yeah, the sun is just now starting to like properly rise in the sky. That's how early it is. But as always, if you want to catch up on any garden tours you've missed, I'll put the playlists for this year and last year up here on the screen. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It really does help out as far as like the YouTube algorithm and making sure that other people see my videos. So if you could do that, that would be very helpful. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.